Not every supernatural character in wrestling manages to make an impact. Some arrive with promises of dominating the ring but fail to win over the audience from the start. Today, we're diving into 10 supernatural characters that debuted with high expectations but instantly faded into obscurity. Number 10. Viscera. Few characters in wrestling history have undergone transformations as dramatic as Mabel's. Known for his colossal size and a shocking victory in the 1995 King of the Ring tournament, Mabel's career seemed to stagnate after his heavily criticized match against Diesel at SummerSlam. The WWE solution? Reimagine Mabel as Viscera, a monstrous member of the Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness. With a striking gothic appearance, complete with white contact lenses and black clothing that emphasizes imposing physique, Viscera looked like a formidable force. However, expectations quickly crumbled. Despite the intimidating look, Viscera's gimmick failed to captivate the audience. His in-ring work hadn't evolved much, and he remained the same slow, clunky wrestler he had been before. After the Ministry of Darkness disbanded, Viscera attempted to retain some gothic elements in his character, but it wasn't enough to keep him relevant. His WWE journey ended in 2000 when he was released. In the end, Viscera became more of a curious footnote in wrestling history than a memorable figure. Number 9. Mideon. The Ministry of Darkness faction, led by The Undertaker, is remembered for bringing a dark and supernatural aura to wrestling in the 90s. However, not all its members managed to shine. Mideon, formerly known as Phineas Godwin, a pig farmer from the tag team The Godwins, underwent a drastic transformation to join the group. He swapped his overalls for the role of a hypnotized follower, blindly obeying Undertaker's commands. Unfortunately, the change failed to leave the desired impact. Mideon was essentially a pawn in Undertaker's game, rarely given the chance to stand out. His presence in the ring was met with indifference from the audience, who couldn't connect with such a purposeless character. Unlike other members of the ministry who exuded danger or mysticism, Mideon often found himself relegated to being a punching bag in matches. Interestingly, his inclusion in the faction likely had more to do with his real-life friendship with The Undertaker than any creative merit. With a more fleshed-out concept and stronger storytelling, Mideon could have carved out a role as a menacing force alongside the Dead Man. Instead, his time in the Ministry of Darkness was as unremarkable as the reaction he received from the crowd. Number 8. Damien Demento. When it comes to supernatural characters in wrestling, the secret to success lies in captivating the audience with a blend of mystery, intensity, and a touch of credibility. Unfortunately, Damien Demento failed in all these aspects, becoming a figure remembered more for his eccentric appearance than for any lasting impact in the ring. With a gimmick of a mentally unstable man supposedly hailing from the outer reaches of the mind, Demento seemed to have a golden opportunity when he faced The Undertaker in the main event of the inaugural Monday Night Raw. However, instead of shining, he faded into the shadow of the Dead Man. The match highlighted why his persona didn't work. While The Undertaker radiated mystery and commanded respect, Demento came across as forced and poorly defined. His peculiar look, complete with grotesque shoulder pads and erratic behavior, felt more like a caricature than a legitimate threat. Ultimately, the lack of development and an unconvincing presentation doomed him to near-instant obscurity. Number 7. The Yeti. When compiling a list of questionable decisions in WCW's history, the Yeti undoubtedly ranks near the top. Created during a time when the company was scrambling for ideas to compete with WWE, the character was marketed as a supernatural and imposing threat. What fans got, however, looked like something out of a low-budget horror movie. The Yeti debuted at Halloween Havoc 1995, appearing as a giant mummy wrapped in what seemed like hastily prepared bandages. His iconic moment came when he and the Giant, now known as Big Show, performed a bizarre double bear hug on Hulk Hogan, creating a scene so strange that it became an instant joke. Rather than coming across as a terrifying supernatural force, the Yeti was seen as a poorly executed parody. To make matters worse, WCW inexplicably decided to reinvent the character shortly after, transforming the Yeti into a giant ninja. The change made no logical sense and only added to the confusion surrounding the gimmick. The constant shifts and lack of seriousness in developing the character reinforced the idea that WCW underestimated the intelligence of its audience. In the end, the Yeti is remembered as one of wrestling's most absurd characters, a textbook example of how not to create a supernatural wrestler. Number 6. Black Rain. Dustin Rhodes is one of the most versatile wrestlers in history, renowned for his ability to create unique and memorable characters. However, not all of his creations were successful. In 2007, Rhodes debuted in TNA as Black Reign, an attempt to explore the darker and more twisted side of his personality. On paper, the concept was intriguing, a persona that embodied Rhodes' inner demons, blending psychological terror with a disturbing aesthetic. Dressed in a black and silver outfit with a mask that evoked horror elements, Black Reign seemed poised to make an impact, but the execution turned out to be a disaster. The character lacked clear direction, and his confusing promos and uninspired matches only deepened the disconnect with the audience. To make matters worse, Rhodes was grappling with significant personal issues at the time, which visibly affected the quality of his work. The legacy of Black Reign remains a bitter memory for both fans and Rhodes himself. Despite the character's failure, this dark chapter served as a turning point in Rhodes' career, leading to a triumphant rebirth with iconic characters like Goldust and his more recent performances. Black Reign, however, stands as a classic example of a potentially intriguing idea lost to poor execution. Number 5. Mordecai. In 2004, WWE was looking for new characters to shock and entertain fans. Enter Mordecai, a wrestler who promised to be the complete opposite of The Undertaker. While the Dead Man symbolized darkness and mystery, Mordecai emerged as the warrior of light, clad in white robes, carrying a giant cross in his entrance, and portraying a fanatical persona on a mission to purify sinners. The concept seemed brilliant on paper, an anti-Undertaker who could eventually clash with the Dead Man in an epic rivalry. Mordecai's vignettes were impressively produced, and his stage entrance, complete with smoke and dramatic lighting, gave the impression of something special. However, the character faltered the moment he stepped into the ring. Portrayed by Kevin Fertig, Mordecai lacked the in-ring skills needed to stand out at a time when WWE was beginning to value in-ring performance over exaggerated gimmicks. His matches were dull, his offense was limited, and he failed to establish the commanding presence necessary to connect with the audience. Criticism of his abilities and the lack of crowd engagement sealed his fate. Shortly after his debut, Mordecai vanished from WWE programming, buried before he could ever realize his potential. The idea of an anti-Undertaker remains a concept that could have been iconic with better execution. Instead, Mordecai stands as a reminder of how poor implementation can ruin even the most promising ideas. Number 4. The Zombie. The WWE's revival of ECW came with many questionable decisions, but none were as bizarre as the brief appearance of the Zombie. With the ECW brand known for its gritty, no-holds-barred, and often gritty realism, the introduction of a literal zombie seemed like a jarring disconnect from the promotion's roots. The character appeared for a single match, a mere 2-minute spectacle designed to be little more than an oddity. The zombie's sole purpose was to be destroyed by the Sandman in a quick one-sided contest that barely gave him time to register as a threat. Out of place in the ECW universe. The short-lived existence of the Zombie symbolized WWE's misguided attempt to recapture the gritty, dangerous spirit of the original ECW. Instead of bringing a fresh edge to the table, it felt like a slapstick moment that couldn't have been further from the hardcore, real-life energy ECW had once embodied. For fans of the original ECW, the Zombie's appearance was the final nail in the coffin, a grotesque reminder that the brand had been watered down into something unrecognizable. Number 3. Seven. Once again on this list, Dustin Rhodes, known for his ability to create captivating characters, made a controversial return to WCW with a new look that quickly became infamous. In 1999, he took on the role of Seven, a dark and mysterious character that seemed more like something out of a nightmare than a wrestling ring. With vignettes showing him spying on children, the concept was soon called into question by both the public and WCW itself, triggering negative reactions and moral concerns. The idea of a dark vigilante, almost like a predator, was not only poorly received by the fans, but it also raised several red flags in the company's standards and practices department. The imagery of Rhodes watching children created an uncomfortable atmosphere that led to the gimmick being quickly discarded. Without much explanation and in an act of desperation, Rhodes was forced to cut a live promo to officially end the character. In his words, Seven was nothing more than a failed idea that now served as a stain on his career. Dustin, known for his talent and dedication to wrestling, admitted that the gimmick not only failed, but was one of the biggest mistakes of his professional journey, a mistake he would prefer to forget. Number 2. Kevin Thorne. When Kevin Furtick stepped into the shoes of Mordecai, no one expected him to reinvent himself so quickly. Enter Kevin Thorne, a character that could have been straight out of a gothic horror novel, a vampire in the revived ECW. With a chilling entrance filled with fog and ominous lighting, and accompanied by his seductive valet, Ariel, Thorne seemed to have all the makings of a dark, mysterious figure who could haunt his opponents and the audience alike. But while his visual presentation was impressive, the execution fell flat. His in-ring skills simply couldn't match the dark mystique of his character. The crowds didn't buy into the concept. His matches were unremarkable, and Thorne's vampire persona came off more cheesy than menacing. Worst of all, the name Kevin just didn't evoke fear or power. It was almost comical. A vampire named Kevin? It sounded more like the name of the guy you'd invite over for a barbecue, not someone you'd expect to suck the life out of his foes. The character never got the traction it needed, and Kevin Thorne quickly faded into obscurity. In the end, his short-lived vampire gimmick felt like a missed opportunity, one that never reached the supernatural heights it was meant to. Number 1. The Judgment Day. The idea of the Judgment Day began with an intriguing premise. Edge, the rated R superstar, was returning to WWE to lead a villainous faction with a storyline that involved supernatural elements. The concept was simple. Edge, with his dark charisma, would gather a team of anti-heroes and villains to dominate the wrestling world. However, as often happens with many great ideas in wrestling, too much creativity can be a significant enemy. WWE decided to add supernatural elements to the storyline, and Damian Priest was gifted with inexplicable powers, such as the ability to change the arena lights with a simple wave of his hands. Without any logical explanation, this caused the Judgment Day's concept to lose credibility, with the audience becoming confused and disconnected. The turning point came when Edge, seemingly disillusioned with the direction of the faction, was removed and replaced by Finn Balor. This leadership change, which initially seemed like a desperate move, turned out to be exactly what the faction needed to find its true identity. With Balor at the helm, the Judgment Day moved away from the supernatural elements and began focusing on a more grounded dynamic, with strong characters, internal tensions, and captivating rivalries. Now free from the forced mysticism, the group found a new lease on life and became one of WWE's biggest successes in the past 2 years. Who do you think should have made it onto this list? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the amazing videos we'll be releasing. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. See you in the next one.